What's up, everybody? Welcome into the 247 Sports College Basketball Show. I'm your host, Adam Finkelstein, and you are at the place where we break it all down: NBA draft, college basketball, the transfer portal, and, of course, high school recruiting. This week's show, we are going to talk about the NBA draft deadline, meaning the deadline for players to come back to college basketball. We've already had a number of notable names making news in the last 24 to 48 hours. And then we are going to talk about this past weekend's Nike EYBL session. To start it all off, I'm going to welcome in Isaac Trotter, the man with all the numbers and information and inverted ball screen coverage. Trotter, welcome to the show, my man.
What's up? Let's do this.
Let's get into it, because we have had a number of big names announce they are coming back to college basketball. Now, I need you to confirm you do not know what questions I'm going to ask you right now.
No idea.
All right, great. Well, let's start with this. Is Houston the number one team in college basketball now that Milos Uzan is coming back to run the point?
Yeah, I have them number one. I think when you kind of factor in getting Milos Uzan back, who I think could be the best guard in the Big 12 next year, Emmanuel Sharp, who is one of the best two-way guards in the Big 12 next year, and then JoJo Tugler returning, surrounding an awesome recruiting class, I think it just gives them such a super high floor with that high ceiling like you're talking about. I feel great about that unit right now, and it's fun. Like, you kind of factor in those three returners mixed with two guys in Isaiah Hartwell and then Chris Senack Jr., who maybe could be first-round picks next year. It's like, man, Houston hasn't had this level of high-ceiling talent mixed with a really high floor of like these returners that are just vets that know the front and back of Kelvin Sampson's playbook. It's fun to sort of talk about what this team could look like as they start to meld. And Uzan's obviously a huge piece of that. I think it's a little bit of a surprise that he came back towards the end of the stretch. There, some people were thinking that he would probably end up staying. Houston staff thought he might end up staying in the NBA draft. So to get him back for his senior year is huge. I think that year two transfer jump for him is going to be something really, really special.
That's interesting, because I didn't hear like a whole lot of NBA momentum for him in recent weeks. I think he had more momentum, so to speak, like late in the college basketball season. Like, draft Twitter started to really, I don't want to say fall in love with him, but highlight him a little bit more. We're going to see, though. This is if this is an economic decision, a lot of players are making the same ones because the money is better right now in college basketball for a fringe kid. Let me make this point to add to what you already said. I really like this because it takes some of the pressure off of those freshmen. Chris Senack, Isaiah Harwell, Kingston Flemings, best recruiting class in totality that I think Houston has ever had. But are they capable from day one of leading these guys to a Final Four, like with all that pressure on their back? No, I don't think they are. So obviously you got Sharp and you got Tugler, but now they've got the guy who's going to orchestrate it all. So I think this is going to be a luxury for Kingston Flemings. He's not going to have the burden of having to come in and try and run the show right away. And I think he's going to be a heck of a player in this system. But I think this year now, to learn under Uzan's tutelage, potentially play with him at times, is really going to help him potentially have a breakout sophomore season. And in so doing, stabilize Houston for the foreseeable future, right? There's a blueprint now that goes more than 1 year, and that's rare in college basketball this day and age. So even if Senack is one and done, Harwell, we'll see if he pursues that pathway or not. But to your point, I like the mix of experience with youth. The overall talent is probably higher in terms of NBA caliber guys than maybe we've seen before. So yeah, I think they're going to be right there. All right, let's go to Michigan now, because if this to me was a little bit of a surprise, and that is Yaxel Lenderborg is going to Michigan, grad transfer from UAB. Had, I think, momentum to be a potential first-round pick, but again, just the market value of NIL versus the potential to be a late first-round pick, and the guarantee, quite frankly, in college basketball, which is the antithesis of what we've seen over the years, but now it's the case. He had guaranteed money to go back to college basketball, whereas in the NBA, it was a little bit more air. I think there's potential to, like, hey, he would get into the top 20, 24 in order to match the money he's reportedly going to get this year at Michigan. And what I think is exciting about this is I think he has an opportunity to step into that role Danny Wolf played. Now, I'm not saying they're the exact same type of players, but being able to facilitate, and play with the ball in your hands, even though he's a forward by conventional definitions. And if he can do that, I think he could really help his draft stock. We saw Danny Wolf do it last year. Let's face it, Danny Wolf was not on any draft boards a year ago. He's widely expected to be a first-round pick now. I think Yaxel's got a chance with a big season, with his measurables and with his statistical profile, to play his way into the lottery. But where do you have Michigan right now in terms of your preseason forecast, like preseason poll? Where do you have them slotted?
Yeah, I'm thinking about them as like a top 10 team and maybe the second best team in the Big Ten behind Purdue, or even maybe in the opportunity to pass the Boilermakers, just because I look at this group and I think it has one of the highest floors in college basketball. They're going to be awesome at the rim offensively and awesome at the rim defensively. And they're just going to abuse teams on the glass, both offensive rebounding with Yaxel Lenderborg and Merez Johnson, Ade Mara, and defensive rebounding. So when you have that advantage at the rim offensively and defensively, I just think that raises the floor to a really, really high level. Now, I think their biggest X factor is Elliot Cadeau. And if they get a good Elliot Cadeau type of season, I think we could talk about Michigan as maybe the best team in the Big Ten, a legit Final Four contender, a no doubt top 10 team. Those all need to come into play where he has a really big year. But I think Yaxel Lenderborg just raises the floor for this Michigan unit in 2025-26. He's going to be awesome there, super productive, one of the most productive players in college basketball. I do wonder a little bit about their shooting, right? Namari Burnett is really the only true high-volume net stripper at the high major level that's very, very proven. So they'll need to have some guys step up in that regard. But, man, they're going to dominate at the rim on both ends of the floor for the second year in a row. And I'm just excited to see what Dusty May puts together, because this front court, it's loaded. And Merez and Ade Mara and Yaxel, they all do something different. I think they really could coalesce into a special unit.
Yeah, I worry about the shooting too and the implications on floor spacing. It's going to be interesting to see. Coming back to the now defending national champions, Alex Condon, and I thought this one made all the sense in the world. Condon, was talked about as a potential first-round pick at various points during the course of the season. And although the Gators won the national championship, he did not necessarily play his best basketball on that title run. I think coming back to Florida does two things. It puts the Gators in position where they have arguably the best front court in college basketball, and it puts them in a prime position to have a legitimate chance to repeat, given the additions they have made in the portal in the backcourt. There's no more Walter Clayton, but they got Boogie Fland, and they've got the transfer coming from Princeton. So if those guards can pick it right up, this front court, I do believe, will be the best in college basketball. So Trotter, same question. Where do you have these guys slotted right now in terms of your preseason poll?
Yeah, I've thought about Florida as potentially as high as number 2 or even number 1. I think they could be firmly right there with Houston for a preseason number 1 team. And I love the idea of retention of this front court, because it's not just Condon. It's Tommy Houck is back. It's Ruben Chinyela who's back. It's Micah Handlockton who's back. And they can go 4 deep up front. I think they're going to be awesome on the offensive glass again. I think their rim protection is going to be terrific. I think it makes sense for Condon to come back as well, too, and get to play with Houck again. I think they're one of the more underrated duos in college basketball. I don't think many people know that, like, when Florida had Houck and Condon on the floor together last year, they had a plus 33 net rating. That was in the 99th percentile, according to CBB Analytics. It's like very hard to get much better than that. Their passing, their big-to-big passing was terrific. They're both awesome cutters. They played off each other well. They're best friends. They live together. Like, it's fun. Like, they get to run it back a little bit. And I like the mix. I don't think that the pieces fit quite as snugly as last year's team, where they had like 3 awesome guards who all were like could pass, dribble, and shoot. Like this year, I like Xavier Lee. I like Boogie Fland, but can you get a lot out of them defensively? I think that's a bigger question. But I still love this team. Like, the talent is off the charts, right? Like AJ Brown, a transfer in from Ohio, is a guy I'm really high on. CJ Ingram, a freshman, our recruiting rankings team, spearheaded by you guys, Fink. Like, you guys obviously really, really like him as well. And he looks physically ready to go. And you just look up and down this roster. It's like, oh, NBA guy. Oh, NBA guy. Oh, NBA guy. NBA guy. Like, not many teams have this many NBA type of quality prospects that Florida has developed, and that speaks to their scouting and also to their development team.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. They do have supreme talent once again. I think they're definitely in position to continue to be in position. I want to talk a little bit about Texas A&M. Bucky McMillan coming over, replacing Buzz Williams. This was a big day for the Texas A&M program because Mackenzie Mgbako, who committed to them out of the portal from Indiana, went to the NBA Combine, beginning with the G League showcase, and had a great showing there. Played his way into the Combine and then played really well there. So then all of a sudden, there was some momentum for this former five-star prospect who initially had one-and-done aspirations. People were wondering, like, hey, is he just going to try and go to the NBA right now? Well, he announced today that he was pulling his name out of the draft, going to, in fact, end up at Texas A&M. And that wasn't the only good piece of news for that program today. They also got a commitment from Pop Isaacs. So this is, I think, tremendous news, great momentum. Now, I've said this before about Mackenzie Mgbako, and I hope it comes to fruition. Please play him at the 4. Stop the 3 stuff. Put him at the 4 where he's got the chance to be most effective, where he creates the most mismatches, and forget about whatever positional nonsense has led him to be least efficient. But what is your take on this Texas A&M program?
Yeah, I feel like they just really revamped their shooting just on today alone, right? Like Jakari Lane, who you already knew was going to be there and can really shoot it from 3, but Pop Isaacs, high volume, high level 3-point shooter. Mackenzie Mgbako, for a 4-man, can really, really shoot it as well. Throw that in with Rylan Griffin, who we know can be one of the top SEC or shooters in the SEC. It's like they could trot out some lineups with some 4-shooter lineups that could give them some trouble, give opponents some trouble, especially in Bucky McMillan's, pace and space, trying to get it up and down in transition. Samford was one of the most high volume 3-point attempt teams, and they just shot a ton of transition threes. So I envision this kind of working, right, offensively. Now, I do have some questions about what they could be defensively, right? Federico, the transfer from Texas Tech, very, very good interior defender, as a rim protecting anchor for that defense. They're going to need a big year out of him. What can you get from their backup bigs? That's going to be a question as well. Do they have enough physicality, right? Maybe a Marcus Hill from NC State can give them some added rim pressure from the guard spot. So there's some questions to fulfill here, but for a late start, this roster looks a whole lot better than maybe what I envisioned when Bucky first got the job. Because remember, he got he was 2 weeks behind all of his other compadres, right, in roster building, because he got that job so late in the cycle. So to put together this type of roster, I think they could envision themselves making the NCAA tournament next year. I don't think that's crazy as a ceiling outcome for Texas A&M, and that would be a really, really good year one for Bucky, and we'll see what he can do from that point on. But yeah, no doubt, big day for them today, getting Pop to transfer from Houston over to Texas A&M, and then obviously getting Mackenzie Mgbako to leave the draft.
All right, big news continuing throughout the day tomorrow, because the deadline is 11:59 p.m. on Wednesday, May 28th, for players to announce they're coming back, and we still have some big names we're waiting to see, guys like Jameer Watkins, guys like RJ Luis, Otega Owe, and others. So you want to stay locked on CBSSports.com and 247Sports.com. For more on the NBA draft, you're going to want to check out the CBS Sports official podcast. That's the NBA Draft Notebook. You can find that weekly. We've got new episodes every week, and it is on the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel. Myself and Kyle Boone will break it down. The most recent episode features players that I am higher on than everyone else, and I will just say that I went big, very literally. All right, now to help me break down what we saw this past weekend in the Nike EYBL, going to welcome in national recruiting analyst Travis Branham. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Travis, great to see you again.
Last week, yeah, you too. So last week we introduced this new concept called Rankings Risers, and basically what that meant is that we were going to update a select player or two in national rankings when they proved themselves deserving. Now, we weren't going to be reactive to this. It wasn't going to be just one evaluation and we shuffle things around. This was going to be something that was proven, that was a thorough vetting of. And last week we had 2 prospects coming out of Adidas 3SSB that multiple people on our staff saw, and we ended up making a big jump. And now this week in the EYBL, we've got a number of players to do that as well. Before we get to that, I want to ask you, what were your general sentiment of what we are seeing right now in the class and what you saw this week in Kansas City? Because I know you spent some time watching the younger kids while I was focused in on the older kids.
Yeah, honestly, it was a very productive weekend. There's a lot that is going to be changing in the class of 2026 moving forward. It's been very evident. I've been out. This was my third trip out, second time at the Nike EYBL, and there's quite a few players out there that are in need of a refresh. And as we're about to discuss here, 3 players in particular in terms of big rankings risers. But in terms of the younger guys that I got a chance to look at, this class of 2028 is looking promising very early on. I got a chance to look at Bentley Lusaqueno, one of the most heralded players in that 2028 class. Saw him in Memphis. He was at USA U16 this past weekend, and a very polished and skilled wing prospect that is going to be one that most fans will want to become familiar with very soon. Again, he is going to be, whenever we debut those 2028 rankings, he will be one that is going to be coming in near the top of the class. And so outside of Bentley Lusaqueno, there's a lot of players that are emerging already and guys that we're going to be keeping very close eyes on. So this 2028 class, although we haven't done our rankings yet, and those will probably come in the fall, it's looking promising early with a lot of depth and talent.
All right. That was, again, there were 10 different courts at this facility. So Trav, myself, E-Boss, we were all making our way across all 10 courts, everybody watching different courts. And I say that because, just because the weekend's over, you always got to go back and watch the film because you can very literally only watch 10% of what's going on at any given point. But let's focus on these rankings risers in the national class of 2026. The first player to know is JJ Andrews. JJ Andrews from Brad Beal Elite came into the spring ranked number 42 overall. And now, immediately, he will jump up to number 17 in the national class of 2026. We are talking about a power southpaw wing. He's had a big reputation for virtually his entire high school career. He's already committed to home state Arkansas. But what we've seen this spring, again, in 3 straight sessions now, is a newfound level of both skill and maturation in his game. His shooting has gone to new levels. His shot selection has gone to new levels. There's added nuances in terms of his ability to utilize his size and physicality to get to the free throw line. I think he's better weaponized his handle. He's no more just a bully on the wing. He can still put his head down and out-muscle you if he need to, but he's got a lot more game and a lot more nuance than he did a year ago. He jumps up now to number 17 overall in the class. Trav, what is your take on JJ Andrews?
Yeah, I mean, when I watched him for the first time this spring, going back to obviously last summer, I mean, it was very evident. He's made a big jump in his skill development. And like you said, going back to last summer, he's more of a bully ball wing, guy that put his head down and much more stronger than all of his peers, much more athletic at that stage, a guy that could just get to the rim, finish, and also rebound the basketball and defend at a high level. However, this time in Memphis, it was glaring how talented he is and just how much improvement he has made, not just with the shooting, as you mentioned, but he's also showing a lot of feel and ability as a playmaker and as a passer. This guy is just stuffing the stat sheets. And there's times where you go out to a court, you watch players play, and there's somebody that just jumps out at you and they just move different. The way they play the game is just different, and he is that guy. And when I saw him in Memphis, I was blown away by just how far he'd come in terms of this was also fresh off the commitment to Arkansas. Sometimes kids will come off those commitments and they start feeling a little bit more relaxed, and this has obviously turned into a very positive for him.
The second riser from this week's Nike EYBL is Vaughn Karvala from Team Harrow. He came into the spring ranked number 126 overall in the national class, but he's making a big jump all the way up to 42. Now, we are talking about a 6'6" wing, and he's every bit of 6'6", if not bigger. On top of that, as you can see, he's a big-time shot maker, but he is also a very good athlete. I mean, he rose up and threw down some big dunks this weekend. He had there you see it on cue. He had a reverse lob at one point. He hammered a two-handed flush in transition after coming up with a big win on Sunday. This guy moves like a player. He leaps like a player. He shoots like a player, and he's got terrific positional size. Now, I want to emphasize, he's not a finished product. He's got to get stronger. He's got to get more physical, got to be consistent and diligent with his impact on the defensive end of the floor. And I'd also like to see him diversify his offensive attack and learn how to get some easy points and not just be content to be a shooter at times, but the overlap of size, skill, athleticism, and movement skills had me sold. You were high on him when we got to Kansas City on Friday night. You told me to go watch him. I won't say who you had me compare him to, but you were spot on. So how long have you been on the Vaughn Carvala path?
Yeah, I mean, it just goes back to Memphis that first time out during the live period for me, seeing Vaughn Karvala. He was one that coaches were just talking about consistently on the sideline. So I decided I'm going to go watch this kid play. And like you said, the size and length and athleticism immediately jump out. And then as you watch him, you see his feel, his instincts and IQ for the game, and then the shot making. Now, he, like you said, he hasn't been consistent. That is an area that we're going to be monitoring moving forward, but the shot is very clean. He will make some really impressive flashes on the defensive end of the court. He has tallied quite a few blocks already in the EYBL this season. So this kid has a lot of potential, and I think as he continues to prove himself throughout the course of this spring and summer, he's probably not done rising just yet.
No. In fact, we should emphasize that. You know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because I had a coach actually ask me yesterday, in fact, in the airport, because the Kansas City airport was just like an EYBL convention. Someone said to me, like, what are you going to do if the guys you raise up aren't able to sustain it? And what I explained is I said, that's why we're not being reactive to this. We're making sure that multiple guys on the staff see the same thing before we're making the move. And in every case, we're being conservative. So while JJ Andrews goes up to 17, he could probably be higher. Why Vaughn Carvala goes up to 42. I'm going to be frank. If he puts it all together, he'll end up being higher. And this next guy is going to make a jump that may not be done yet either. And we are talking about Bryson Howard from Pro Skills. Was unranked to start the spring. In fact, he's never been ranked before. The son of longtime NBA player Josh Howard, but he has come on in a major way in recent weeks. We are talking about a 6'5+ lefty wing. His body is evolving at a rapid rate. He's got tree trunks for legs. He's going to have a tremendous frame when it's all said and done. He's been scoring the ball in high volume. I'll tell you what, I buy the shot too. I think he's willing to do the dirty work. I love his court coverage, the athleticism you saw there. Trav, this guy is a major riser. Again, coming from outside the rankings. First time that's happened. Outside the rankings, and we're putting him automatically in that top 60 territory. Tell me about what you have seen from Howard.
Yeah, I absolutely love him. It was my first time getting to see him this weekend down in Kansas City, but like Vaughn Karvala, he is one that the coaches were probably talking about the most during the live period. And so I knew I had to get my eyes on him down in Memphis. I frankly didn't have the time to go watch him play. But as we sat there and watched him together, the size, the length, and the athleticism immediately jump out. But not only that, the way he plays the game is extremely impressive. He's a dynamic and impactful two-way player. He plays both sides of the ball, plays with a high motor. He's an impactful defender, a guy that can defend multiple positions. He's a good rebounder. And not only did he tear it up this weekend, but he's tearing up just about every single game out. He is one of the top scorers in the Nike EYBL, averaging nearly 21 points a game right now. And it's not just the numbers, but also the efficiency. This kid is shooting 56% from two and 46% from three on roughly 5 attempts a game. I think when he goes back out, whenever that is in June or July, and coaches go watch him, I think he is really going to see his recruitment. It's already taken off. He's earned offers from several high majors in the last 10 days. But I think this thing could reach blue blood status soon.
All right. So Bryson Howard, another major riser in the national class of 2026. Trav, my man, it was great to see you this weekend. Thanks as always for jumping on the show. As always, everybody, the 247 Sports College Basketball Show each and every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. You can check it on out right here on the 247 Sports YouTube channel, as well as past episodes right here on the channel, the very best in college basketball, each Tuesday at 4 p.m.